The red dwarf star cast a dull reddish glow over the busy trading station. Leo wiped sweat from his brow as he finished calibrating the last cargo drone for the day. The station was always crowded. Travelers, merchants, and technicians moved in every direction, their faces tired or anxious. Leo felt every bit as exhausted as they looked. He had been working 12-hour shifts for days, barely scraping by with his meager wages. All he wanted now was a warm drink before heading to his small quarters on the upper deck. The cafe at the edge of the station was noisy, filled with the smell of roasted synth coffee and fried protein packs. Steam curled from metal mugs as patrons chatted, traded information, or argued over minor disputes. Leo pushed through the sliding doors and let out a quiet sigh. The warmth of the cafe was comforting, even if the drink prices were higher than he liked. As he stepped in, his eyes fell on a figure standing near the counter. A tall alien woman. Her skin was silver, shimmering slightly under the cafe lights, and her eyes, a striking shade of violet, looked tired. She appeared delicate, yet there was a certain strength in the way she carried herself. She reached for a steaming cup, then froze, patting her small, jeweled pouch as if searching for something. Her fingers trembled. Leo noticed her hesitation. "Can I help?" he asked, stepping closer. The woman shook her head, embarrassed. I do not have enough credits." Her voice was soft, but carried a musical quality. Alien, yet familiar in its rhythm. Leo hesitated for only a moment. He didn't know why he did it. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe curiosity, but he reached into his pocket and pulled out the last credits he had for the week. "Here," he said, placing them on the counter. "It's okay, I'll pay." The woman's eyes widened. She looked at him as though she had never seen anyone act like this before. She inclined her head slightly. "Thank you," she whispered. Leo shrugged. "No problem." To him, it was just a small gesture. To her, it felt like a lifeline. She accepted the cup and took a careful sip. Mira. That was the name she had been using while hiding her true identity. But Leo didn't know that. To him, she was just another traveler, tired and in need of a warm drink. As they stood there, a pair of rough-looking mercenaries entered the cafe, scanning the room. Mira's body stiffened. She shifted closer to Leo, instinctively trying to shield herself. The mercenaries' eyes locked onto her immediately. Leo followed her gaze, noticing their predatory expressions. "Is something wrong?" he asked quietly. Mira shook her head but didn't speak. She knew the moment had come. Someone had sent them. They were here to force her back to the Lyran court, an empire of unimaginable wealth and power where her life was no longer her own. But she couldn't let them know who she truly was, not yet. Leo watched as the men approached. "Excuse me," one of them said, his tone low and threatening. "You there. Step aside." Leo's heart pounded, but he didn't move. Something inside him refused to let them intimidate her. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, vulnerable yet proud. Maybe it was just that he couldn't stand seeing someone treated unfairly. The mercenaries laughed, thinking him weak, harmless. One of them nudged him with an armored shoulder. Leo's hands clenched into fists. "I said step aside," the man repeated. Leo didn't. Mira watched in awe. This human, small and fragile compared to these armed strangers, was standing his ground. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something unfamiliar, a feeling of safety, of trust. The tension in the cafe grew thick. A few patrons noticed, murmuring among themselves, but most chose to ignore it. Mira seized the moment. With a quick glance at Leo, she muttered, "Follow me," and slipped toward a side corridor. Leo followed instinctively. They moved quickly through the station, weaving between stalls and docking platforms. Mira kept glancing over her shoulder, nervous but determined. Leo tried to keep up, amazed by her agility. He didn't know her story yet, but he could sense it was serious. Finally, they ducked into a dimly lit maintenance tunnel. Mira leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. I'm sorry you got involved, she said. I didn't mean to drag anyone into this. Leo shook his head. I couldn't just leave you there. Whatever's going on, you don't have to face it alone. She hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. I am different from others. I cannot stay in one place. If I am found, they will... She stopped herself. They will take me back. Leo frowned. Take you back? Why? Who are they? Mira looked down, unsure how much to reveal. I cannot explain everything, not yet, but they are dangerous, and they will not stop until I am under their control again. Leo studied her face, noticing the worry, the exhaustion, and the quiet strength beneath it. Okay, he said finally. Then we need a plan. Mira's eyes widened slightly. Most people she had encountered in her life, nobles, courtiers, even bodyguards, would have run, panicked, or betrayed her. But this human, he was calm, steady, and he wanted to help. They moved carefully through the tunnels, Mira leading the way. Occasionally, Leo glanced at the security monitors on the walls, checking the patrol schedules and trying to find a route that would keep them safe. Mira watched him silently, impressed. You are very brave, she said quietly. Leo shrugged. Maybe stupid is a better word. She smiled faintly, a rare expression for her. For the first time in weeks, she felt a small flicker of hope. As they turned a corner, Leo nearly tripped over a loose pipe. Mira caught his arm, steadying him. Careful, she whispered. Her touch was light, but reassuring. Leo felt a strange warmth spread through him. He had helped many people before, but never anyone like this. Suddenly, the corridor lights flickered, and the sound of heavy boots echoed behind them. The mercenaries had followed. Leo looked at Mira, fear tightening his chest. We need to move faster, he urged. Mira nodded, and together they ran down a narrow passageway that led to the cargo bay. The station seemed endless, a labyrinth of metal corridors, docking platforms, and storage units. Every step was tense, every shadow a potential threat. Finally, they reached a service lift that led to an upper level. Mira pressed the button frantically. We can hide in the maintenance bay there, she said. It's small, cramped, but safe for a little while. The lift doors opened, and they slipped inside, panting. Leo pressed his back against the wall, trying to calm his racing heart. Mira looked at him, her eyes softening. Thank you, she said again, for helping me, for not turning away. Leo shook his head. I told you, no one deserves to be alone in this. The lift ascended slowly, the lights flickering as it moved. Mira watched the stations and ships pass outside the tiny viewport. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She had been running from her responsibilities, her family, and her empire for so long. Yet here, in this moment, beside a human who had no idea who she truly was, she felt free. Leo finally asked the question that had been nagging him. Why are they after you? Who are you, really? Mira hesitated. She could tell him the truth, but only part of it. I am someone important, she admitted. Someone they want to control. I cannot let them. If they find me, everything I am, everything I hope to be, will be lost. Leo nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. He didn't know the details, but he understood one thing clearly. She was in danger. And somehow, he knew he couldn't abandon her now. The lift stopped, and the doors opened to the maintenance bay. It was quiet, filled with spare parts, crates, and tools. Mira led Leo to a corner where they could hide, crouching behind a stack of metal panels. They listened as footsteps and muffled voices passed nearby. Mira's hand brushed against Leo's as she adjusted the hiding spot. The contact was brief, but it sent a strange shiver through both of them. Mira's heart raced, not from fear, but from a strange sense of connection. She had been surrounded by wealth, power, and advisors for her entire life, yet no one had ever made her feel like this. Leo tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Finally, he said, "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Mira looked at him, eyes wide. "Together?" she repeated softly. Leo nodded. "You're not alone anymore." For the first time in months, Mira allowed herself to believe it. Maybe, just maybe, she had found someone she could trust. Outside the maintenance bay, the mercenaries continued their search, unaware that the person they sought was only feet away. Mira took a deep breath, holding on to the warmth of Leo's presence. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt hope. And Leo, exhausted and uncertain, realized that he had stepped into a story far bigger than he imagined. But for now, he would stay. He would protect her. Not for fame, not for fortune, but because it was the right thing to do. The station hummed around them, indifferent to their struggle. But within the quiet corners of the maintenance bay, a human and an alien woman shared a fragile moment of trust. A small spark of something that might grow into something extraordinary. The hum of the station's engines vibrated through the maintenance bay as Mira and Leo crouched behind the crates, catching their breath. Outside, the mercenaries' footsteps echoed on the metal floors, growing fainter as they continued their search elsewhere. For a few moments, the two of them could breathe, though the danger still lingered like a shadow over their heads. Mira pressed her back against a stack of metal panels, trying to calm herself. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I didn't expect anyone to help me. Not like this." Leo shook his head, brushing the dirt from his clothes. "It's nothing. I couldn't let them intimidate you." She looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and something deeper, something she didn't yet understand. "Most people would have looked away," she said. "Most people don't risk themselves for a stranger." Leo shrugged, trying to seem casual, but his heart raced. "Maybe I'm not like most people," he said with a small, nervous smile. Mira allowed herself a faint laugh. It was almost forgotten, buried under weeks of fear and loneliness. "You're very brave," she said softly, "or maybe foolish. But brave in a way that is rare." Leo glanced at her, unsure how to respond. "I don't feel brave," he admitted. I saw someone in trouble and I couldn't turn away. That's all." Mira studied him for a long moment, as if trying to memorize every detail. There was something about his honesty, his simplicity, that felt like a light in the darkness she had been living in for so long. It made her heart ache, both from longing and relief. She finally spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "I should tell you everything," she said. "You deserve the truth. I am Mira. I am not just a traveler. I am the last heir of the Lyran court." Leo froze. "The Lyran court?" he repeated, uncertain if he had heard her correctly. Mira nodded. "It is one of the most powerful empires in this sector. My family expects me to continue the line, to produce an heir, but I am not ready. I never wanted this life, and some powerful families want to force me to marry someone I do not choose." Leo's mind raced. He had known she was important, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. That's incredible," he said, struggling to find words. "And dangerous." "Yes," Mira admitted. "It is dangerous. That is why I fled. I wanted to choose my own path, to live at least a little while without being a pawn in a game of politics." She looked down, ashamed. "I never wanted anyone to get involved, especially not someone like you." Leo shook his head. "I already am involved," he said, his voice firm, "and I'm not going to leave you. Not now. Not ever." Mira looked up at him, startled. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not the advisors, not the bodyguards, not even her closest relatives. There was a quiet strength in his words, a promise that he would stand beside her, even without knowing the full danger. For the first time in months, she felt a strange hope, a belief that maybe she could survive this and still keep her freedom. They moved cautiously through the maintenance tunnels, sticking to shadows and side corridors. Mira led the way, and Leo followed, relying on his knowledge of the station's layout and his quick thinking. Occasionally, they passed small patrols or distracted workers, but they managed to remain unseen. Every corner they turned reminded them of the stakes. The mercenaries were still searching, and the station was a maze of dangers. As they reached a narrow walkway overlooking the station's docking platforms, Mira nearly slipped on a slick metal panel. Leo grabbed her arm just in time, steadying her. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the fear and tension melted into something unspoken, a connection neither of them fully understood, but both felt strongly. "Thank you," Mira whispered again, her voice soft. You're not like anyone I've ever met." Leo smiled faintly, feeling his heart race. "I'm just a human," he said. "Nothing special." Mira shook her head. "No, you are very special. You see me, and you don't treat me like a prize or a burden. You treat me like a person." Leo felt a warmth in his chest. He had never been praised like that, especially by someone so extraordinary. He wanted to say something, to tell her he felt the same way. But the words caught in his throat. The station around them was too dangerous, the moment too fleeting. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the corridor. Red lights flashed as the station's security systems activated. Mira's eyes widened in panic. "They found us," she said. Leo grabbed her hand, holding it tightly. "Then we run," he said. "We can make it." They sprinted down the walkway, leaping over crates and dodging maintenance bots. The mercenaries' voices shouted from behind, echoing through the station's metal corridors. Mira's breath came in sharp gasps, but she pushed herself to keep up with Leo. Every step felt like a test of their courage, a dance between fear and hope. Finally, they reached the emergency escape pods. Mira hesitated at the hatch, torn between the safety of leaving the station and the fear of losing her temporary freedom. She looked at Leo, uncertainty in her violet eyes. "Go with me," Leo urged. "We can face whatever comes next together. You're not alone." Mira studied him, searching for any hint of hesitation or fear. There was none. He was steady, calm, and unyielding. She realized with a mixture of relief and awe that he truly cared, that he was willing to risk everything for her, even without knowing the full danger. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "Together." They slipped into the pod and sealed the hatch. The pod's engines roared to life, and it shot out of the station with surprising speed. Outside the viewport, the red glow of the dwarf star blurred into streaks as they entered open space. Mira pressed her hand against the glass, feeling a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Leo moved beside her, leaning against the console. "We're safe, for now," he said. Mira smiled faintly. "Yes, for now." Her thoughts drifted to her empire, her family, and the life she had fled. She had been running for weeks, hiding from everyone who expected her to serve their interests. And yet, here she was, not running alone. For the first time, she felt a sense of control over her own destiny. "You know," Leo said after a moment, breaking the silence, "you could have just asked for help from someone. Rich, powerful, someone like your own people." Mira laughed softly, a rare sound that seemed almost musical. "They would have tried to control me, to manipulate me." You did not. You just helped. Leo shrugged, feeling a blush rise to his cheeks. I'm not rich. I'm not powerful, but I'm honest, and I care about doing what's right. Mira looked at him, her heart tightening. She had been surrounded by advisors, nobles, and generals all her life. None of them had ever cared about her as a person. None of them had ever made her feel seen. And now, a simple human technician, exhausted, humble, and kind, stood beside her, sharing this small, fragile moment of trust. The pod drifted through the stars, silent except for the hum of its engines. Mira reached out and took Leo's hand, squeezing it gently. I trust you, she whispered. Leo looked at her, startled. You do? Yes, she said firmly. I've never trusted anyone like this before. Not my family, not my advisors, not even my closest allies. But I trust you. Leo felt a warmth spread through him, stronger than anything he had ever known. He squeezed her hand in return. Then we face everything together, he said. Mira smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. She didn't know what awaited them at the Lyran court, or how her family would react to her defiance. But for now, she had made her choice. She would not be forced into a life she did not want, and she would not be alone. The stars stretched out before them, vast and endless. Mira leaned back in her seat, watching them drift past, feeling the weight of the past week slowly lifting. She had escaped, yes, but more importantly, she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and cared for her beyond her status, beyond her wealth, beyond her title. Leo glanced at her, sensing her quiet reflection. No matter what happens next, he said, we'll get through it. You're not alone anymore. Mira nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude and a cautious hope. No, I'm not, she whispered. The pod glided toward the coordinates Mira had set, aiming for a distant sector where a trusted ally could provide shelter. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant, but inside, in that small escape pod, warmth and trust grew between a human and an alien princess, two beings from different worlds, yet bound together by courage, kindness, and a fragile hope for the future. As the pod drifted further into space, Mira turned to Leo, a soft smile on her lips. Thank you, she said, for everything, for the drink, for standing with me, for trusting me. Leo smiled, feeling a strange, powerful connection that he could not fully explain. You don't need to thank me. We're in this together. Mira looked out at the stars again, feeling the tension of her life slowly ease. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future that was hers, one where she could choose her path, one where she could be free, and one where she could trust someone with her heart. And Leo, the simple human who had only wanted a warm drink after a long day, realized that his life had changed forever. He had found purpose beyond himself, a reason to fight, a reason to hope, and somewhere in the quiet hum of the pod, drifting between the stars, the bond between them grew. Delicate, fragile, and yet unbreakable. The journey ahead would not be easy. Powerful forces waited to reclaim Mira, and danger lurked in every corner of the galaxy. But for now, they had each other. And that, Leo realized, was enough to face whatever came next.